The newest from Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, Something in the Dirt, set to be released this November, appears to be exciting and a movie you most definitely want to see. But do you want to know more about it? Would you like to know the 5 great indie horror movies? In today's video, we will be reviewing the film Something in the Dirt and show you 5 great indie horror movies. So sit tight and watch this video to the end. First up, let's see a little overview of the sci-fi movie. There's a reputable pandemic opus arising between host Bo Burnham's Inside and Jacob Estes He's Watching, and Something in the Dirt is among the greatest yet. This sci-fi dusted ode to Los Angeles slackerdom is pretty standard of the quarantine genre, a tidal wave of self-involved innovation about no more than its creation. However, filmmakers Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead reach their two-hander with sly humor and doubt that keeps it from fading away from its foundation. The movie might be classified as LA esoterica, along with Mulholland Drive and Under the Silver Lake. Drifter John moves into the same housing complex as longtime resident Levi, where they observe a strange scintillating abnormality in his sitting room that defies gravity and ashtray and generates spiraled trends on the wall. They decide to produce a documentary about it, initially believing it to be a ghost, to land a Netflix deal. Then Levi, an unwavering follower of an apocalyptic church, notices the same geometrical patterns all over the city, in brickwork, signs, and so on. Surprisingly, the meta-documentary perspective expands the scope of insular male obsessive thoughts into the unknown, rather than ironizing the terrain inwards. Next, how did John and Levi curate their reality in the movie? In reenacting these supernatural incidents, John and Levi play the same game as the galactic overseers they believe they may be in contact with, curating their reality. Even as the net of their theories widens, their obsessive significance always seems to function to this end. Extraterrestrials, contemporary Pythagorean cults, and semaphore messages disclosed in the grain of strange fruit. Levi, too, begins to piece together John's hazy background story, uncovering something disquieting about himself during the process. Something in the Dirt is so focused on its philosophical supply that it fails to invest adequately in the duo's declining relationship, causing it to drag. But still, it grasps a mini-cosmos from nothing. Its delicately sublime visuals, courtesy of Moorhead's photography background, simply pointing to some greater truth within the next corner. The film is about making films with your friends. Benson and Moorhead work for Marvel, but let's hope that their parallel reality cinema is more along these lines. Let's take a sneak peek into the plot line of the movie. 2 men, one more burned out than the other even though both are struggling, find themselves residents in a Laurel Canyon low-rent apartment building. John is a guy who is recently separated and is good at math, although he does not appear to have a job. Levi is a bartender with a shady criminal background and no family or friends. He's somewhat on sex offender registry, but has an excellent explanation for why he isn't meant to be there. They happen to meet in the backyard at random. Levi has recently moved into a house that has been empty for as long as John can remember. John sits there, and what appears to be blood spatters on his shirt. This is not recognized. Strange things begin to occur in Levi's rented house almost immediately. Mathematical equations, assumedly scribbled by the previous tenant, cover the walls and door jambs. A quartz crystal item levitates by itself, emitting light prisms. A closet emits electrostatic radiance and low-density conditions. Things are floating around. A random plant emerges a truly horrific, slippery little fruit that appears to be screaming, "Feed me, Seymour," at any instant. Levi and John have only known each other for 10 minutes when they get engrossed in attempting to determine what is going on. Finally, they decide to record their experiences to make a documentary that will earn them accolades and money. So, have you ever wondered why people love horror movies? Could it be the thrills and chills? Among the most enduringly famous film genres is horror. They regularly top the box office, and most of their characters, from Norman Bates in Psycho to Freddy Krueger in A Nightmare on Elm Street to Hannibal Lecter in The Silence of the Lambs, have become iconic figures. However, while many eagerly purchase tickets to the newest horror film release, we strive to avoid anything and everything that frightens us in our daily lives. Hence, why would we pay to see a film that makes us fearful? Scholars have yet to explain why people enjoy watching horror movies adequately. This is because individuals desire horror films for a variety of reasons and also to satisfy numerous gratifications. Furthermore, some folks may be drawn to horror for one purpose but not another. Up next, what are the 5 best indie horror movies? Horror has long been the most universally despised of film genres. On the one hand, it has the most fantastic opportunity to explore troubling notions regarding human behavior. On the other, it's an extensive framework in which exploitation filmmakers can make a horrid mess. As a result, skilled and shameless directors are frequently forced to squeeze together their funding to bring their pressure nightmares to the big screen. Here are the 5 scariest, nastiest, and greatest indie horror films. First, we have The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Tobe Hooper's masterpiece is just as frightening today as it was 47 years ago. People will say it's among the most violent movies they've ever seen, but it avoids unwarranted graphic violence. The worst parts take place off-screen, leaving the audience to imagine the unimaginable. The carnivorous rednecks versus long hairs metaphor is undeniably a Vietnam metaphor, but it resonates with our existing red state, blue state, cold civil war. Second, we have Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. The natural settings character study of a serial murderer by John McNaughton is approximately as grim as it gets. Michael Rooker is dead-eyed and flawless as a drifter who kills random people out of primal necessity rather than for kicks or revenge. It's his purpose for being on this planet. In Chicago, Henry meets up with an old prison pal, and the two go on a murdering rampage that is muddled by the presence of his friend's kind-hearted sister. But there is no atonement or transformation here. Everything will end in death, with Henry moving on to his next victims. Next, we have Martin. The strange melancholy power of George A. Romero's Martin stems from its ambiguity. We never know whether its young hero is a millennia vampire or a deeply screwed up kid. Martin is persuaded of the former, as his devoted Catholic cousin Tata accommodates him. Still, Romero adds to our skepticism by portraying the usual classic symptoms as nonsense. This includes no reflection in the mirror, irrational fear of holy water, and garlic. Martin, who is lonely, is now a local talk radio sensation, The Count. He also keeps preying on women to quench his blood cravings. You'd think after centuries he'd be much more skilled at sourcing his food. Martin is a particular kind of monster who both horrifies and fascinates us. Next, we have Halloween, 1978. John Carpenter's Frightened Machine, still among the most profitable independent films of all time, sparked the horror movie craze, which crippled the horror genre for nearly a decade. Consider Halloween in the way it was received in 1978. People were taken aback by the swirl in the opening scene and unsettled by the film's early autumn Midwest setting shot in and around Los Angeles. Carpenter's extensive screen constituents and slow pace encouraged viewers to scan the chassis for signs of the boogeyman. He could be in any location. Finally, he could not be killed. 43 years ago, movie fans didn't leave begging for a sequel. They went right back for another viewing of The Night He Came Home. Halloween also served as the ideal date night horror film, lacking the brutality of The Texas Chainsaw Massacre or the gratuitous gore of Dawn of the Dead. It works effectively on all levels. Finally is The Hills Have Eyes, 1977. Wes Craven's follow-up to Last House on the Left is yet another exercise in patience where a typical American family is lowered to savagery. However, this time it's for survival rather than revenge, thereby making it slightly more palatable. Craven's method is still far from the self-assurance of A Nightmare on Elm Street or the flat-out mastery of Scream, so this jaggedness works in his favor once again. When a family of mutated cannibals snares and plays with the Carters on holiday in the Nevada desert, we are astounded by Craven's viciousness in dispatching seemingly decent people. Though Michael Berryman's Pluto had become an iconic horror figure, the lousy sequel destroyed any chance of a franchise, though Alexandre Aja's 2006 remake plays incredibly rough for a studio horror film. And that wraps up this video. I hope you enjoyed it and got some information out of it. Remember to click that like button and comment. Also be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming content. Thanks for watching.